What's going on, King of Kings family? It is day 15 of our Lent campaign, dwelling in the Gospel of John through the 40 days of Lent. And today's reading comes from John chapter 8, verses 1 through 30, where a lot of things are going on in this passage, but the most famous one is where Jesus is teaching in the temple right at the very beginning of the chapter, and the Pharisees and the elders bring a woman who's caught in the very act of adultery. They bring this woman before Jesus and want to know, what does he say she should be done to her? Because they're trying to trap him. If he says no for let her off the hook, then he's going against the law, and their interpretation of the law was that any woman caught in adultery should be stoned to death. And if he agrees with them that she should be stoned, then they can claim him as one of their own, that he was about the business of upholding the law in the way that they wanted to see it happen. Well, and Jesus takes it a wholly different direction, as Jesus is masterful in doing, and he says, any of you who have not sinned, go ahead and throw a stone. If you've never sinned, if you've never broken the law, if you've never screwed up, to go ahead and do it. And of course, they all are intimately aware of their own sinfulness, and so they leave. And then he looks at the woman and says, is anybody here condemning you? She says no, and he says, neither do I. Go and sin no more. And it's this beautiful picture of grace, in which Jesus does not condemn us for the ways in which we mess up. That's an inviting posture that Jesus takes, that there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ, as Paul says. But then he also says something. He says, now go and sin no more. Now go and don't do it again. And then we hear that and we think, well, gosh, how do I not sin anymore? I'm still broken. I'm still messed up. I'm still struggling. And this is where verse 12 is helpful. And we don't know if this is all happening in one event, or if Jesus, this is a teaching that Jesus gives later at a different time. But it was important to John for these two, these first 11 verses, and then for verse 12 to come next, where Jesus, it says, Jesus spoke to the people again, saying, I'm the light of the world. Whoever follows me won't walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And the idea of going and sinning no more is we can't do that ourselves. We're exactly right. We are not perfect. The only way that we keep from sin is by walking with Jesus, is by seeing Jesus as the light of the world, letting him shine the light on the dark places of our lives so that we don't walk in darkness anymore, but have the light of life. And the good news is, because there's no condemnation, because Jesus doesn't condemn us for our sin, we can then invite him into our sin to bring light to our darkness in a way that then sets us free from that sin. And that's a lifelong process, because there's just so much that we struggle with. There's so many dark places that sin has permeated. And yet, because there's no condemnation, we are then able to invite Jesus into that, to transform us and to bring light to those dark places. And so the question for you today is what dark place are you holding on to? What sin would religious people catch you in the very act of and bring you before Jesus in the way that this woman was brought before, and her sins were laid bare? And whatever that is, know that Jesus does not condemn you for that. And because there is no condemnation, you can invite Jesus into that sin and to bring light into that darkness and to set you free. That's what we got for today. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless.